Don't bother coming. We all agreed. That was the entire text. No punctuation, no greeting. Just that. Sent by Ron, my stepdad, who somehow thinks he's head of the family now. It hit me like a slap. I literally stopped chewing mid-bite and just stared at my phone, like, wait, what the hell does that even mean? Then my mom followed up with her signature fake formal tone. You're not welcome at the funeral. It's better this way. Better for who, exactly? Because it sure as hell wasn't better for me. Last week, my name's Jordan Reyes, I'm 34, single, and work as a CPA. I'm not flashy, not wild. I save, I plan, I do boring adult things like budgeting and wiring money to people who forgot their rent again. My dad, my real dad, passed away 2 weeks ago after a long, nasty battle with lung cancer. I was there for every chemo session, every ambulance ride, every late night can you come over call. I drove 6 hours from Portland to Spokane so often I could do it in my sleep. He wasn't perfect, but he was mine. Quiet, stoic, taught me how to change my oil and stand up straight even when people talked down to me. The kind of guy who kept a tool for every possible scenario, and somehow a metaphor to go with it. Meanwhile, Mom remarried Ron, who's always been more of a tax write-off than a man. And then there's Brittany, my younger half-sister, princess of manipulation. She grew up with the "you can do no wrong" medal glued to her chest. I spent the last 2 months managing the logistics of Dad's care hospice contracts, estate paperwork, hospital invoices, while Mom and Brittany posted prayer emojis on Facebook. 3 days ago, I had just finalized the cremation service, chose the music, sent the invites to extended family, even booked 6 hotel rooms with my own card for relatives flying in from Denver and San Jose. That's when I got that text. We all agreed. I didn't even react. I sat there, staring at the wall like it might offer me a reason. They were kicking me out of my own father's funeral, the funeral I organized, the one I paid for. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, but I'll tell you what, I felt something snap. It wasn't even sadness, just cold clarity, like someone flipped a switch in my chest and said, okay, we're done being the punching bag now. A year ago, Dad made me co-owner of his house. He told me straight up, your mom will try to take it, just make sure it goes where it's supposed to. At the time, I thought he was being cynical, but turns out the man was just realistic. I had the paperwork, my name was on the deed. I kept that quiet, even when Mom started casually referring to the house as our inheritance. Brittany even moved into the guest room last fall without asking me, of course, and turned it into her home office. She didn't pay rent. Hell, she didn't even buy toilet paper. This morning, I pulled up the funeral invoice I had paid in full $6.200 for venue, service, cremation, and printed programs with Dad's picture on the cover and my name as the point of contact. I called the funeral home. Hi, this is Jordan Reyes. I need to cancel a service. A beat? Yes, the one for Manuel Reyes. No, I'm not a guest. I'm the legal organizer. Cancel the whole thing. No reschedule. Refund to the original card. It was that easy. You want me out of the funeral? Fine. You just lost the damn funeral. Later that day, I checked my email. A notification popped up from my dad's old estate lawyer. I almost deleted it, thinking it was just final paperwork. Nope. Inside was an alert a new addendum had been filed last week, supposedly signed by both Dad and me, giving full estate control to Brittany and my mom, including the house, except I didn't sign anything. I read it again, and again. They forged my signature. I sat back and said, out loud, screw that. The next morning, I woke up to 14 missed calls. Brittany, Mom, even Ron, who usually only texts like a boomer uncle, sending blurry BBQ pics with LOL captions. No voicemails, just missed calls. Then the group chat lit up. Brittany, Jordan, can we please talk? This is getting out of hand. Mom, you're being really immature. This isn't what your father would have wanted. Ron, grow up, man. Funny how suddenly they all wanted to talk. when they were planning this behind my back? Silence, and now they're shocked because the golden carpet got pulled out from under them. I grabbed my coffee, sat down, and scrolled through the texts with a level of calm that would have scared last week me. Because I wasn't pissed, I was strategic. A few hours later, Brittany showed up at the house. Yep, she really thought she could just walk in. She pounded on the door like a cop with a warrant. Jordan, open the door. This is still my home too. I stayed quiet. The Ring camera was recording. She kept yelling for 5 full minutes, then she switched to crying. Please, this isn't fair. Dad would want us together. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Oh, you didn't mean to file fake legal paperwork and kick me out of his funeral. Cool motive. Still fraud. I almost opened the door. Almost, but instead, I hit the mic button on the Ring and said, "You're trespassing on private property. You have 60 seconds to leave before I call the cops. Your name's not on the deed. Brittany, mine is, go ask Mom if she saved the receipt for the fake signature." She froze. I could literally see the blood drain from her face. Then she backed away, got in her car, and peeled off. That night, I drove to Dad's storage unit. He had this tiny off-grid place about 20 minutes outside town. Used it to keep old tools, boxes of photos, fishing gear, and random paperwork. I still had the key. I'd helped him sort through it last summer. I unlocked it and went straight to the old metal filing cabinet in the corner. Top drawer, 3rd folder. Inside was the video, labeled in his handwriting in case things go sideways. I'd forgotten all about it. I took it home, poured a whiskey, and played it. Dad was sitting on the back porch in that flannel shirt he always wore. He looked tired, eyes sunken, but still sharp. Still him. Hey, kid, if you're watching this, it means either I didn't make it or someone's screwing around with my stuff. Probably both. Listen, I know your mom. I know Brittany. They'll smile and pretend, but they only care when something benefits them. You've always been the one with a damn spine. He paused, took a sip of something, probably the bourbon I gave him last Christmas. That house is yours, not because you're the oldest, not because you're responsible, but because you showed up. Every time. And that matters. Don't let them gaslight you out of it. I sat there with my head in my hands. I wasn't crying, but I wasn't breathing either, because for years, I thought maybe I was being too cold, too harsh, too distant. And here he was, posthumously saying, "Nah, you saw it clearly." The next day, I forwarded the addendum to my lawyer. She called me 5 minutes after opening it. "Jordan, this is forged. They didn't even use the right version of your signature." Apparently, Brittany had taken an old document I signed from a lease back in 2017, scanned it, and digitally copied the signature onto this updated estate file. They submitted it to the lawyer after Dad died. Illegal, yes. Dumb as hell, also yes. We filed a formal fraud report with the county, filed a protective order on the property, and then the cherry on top, I emailed Brittany. "Hey, since you and Mom thought you'd cut me out, just a heads up, I canceled the service, the caterer, the shuttle van, and the hotel block. Also, the utilities shut off at midnight. You might want to find a backup Wi-Fi source for your influencer grind. Oh, and you'll be hearing from my lawyer. Have a beautiful day. Petty maybe." Deserved 100%. That night, I couldn't sleep. My phone buzzed again. A new message. From Aunt Linda, Dad's sister. We hadn't spoken in months, but she was one of the few family members who actually saw me. Aunt Linda heard what happened. Just watched Brittany's meltdown on Facebook Live. Call me if you need anything. Proud of you. Wait, what? I opened Instagram. Brittany had gone live. Crying, screaming, rambling about entitlement and abandonment and how I was the villain for destroying her future. The comments were wild. Wait, didn't your brother pay for the funeral? Girl, this ain't it. This is why people go no contact. Who fakes a will? The best part, her fiance dumped her. Yeah, apparently his parents caught wind of the forged legal documents and noped out fast. The wedding canceled, ring returned, deposit non-refundable. Guess karma doesn't play around. The following day, I packed a duffel bag, booked a cabin near the coast, and just unplugged. No texts, no emails, just me, silence, and a box of Dad's old Polaroids. I brought the video with me too. Watched it again. You don't owe them peace. Son, you owe yourself freedom. And I swear, I felt him sitting next to me when he said that. Like the air shifted, like I could finally breathe. 2 days later, I made one last move. I created a shared Google Drive, uploaded every receipt, every invoice, every Venmo transfer, labeled the folder Contributions Jordan Made that nobody acknowledged. Then I sent the link to every family member. No caption, no follow-up. Let them sit with it. I was done talking, done explaining, done performing respectability while they burn me behind closed doors. And just like that, the group chat booted me. Perfect. When I got back to Portland, I had one voicemail waiting, from Ron. Hey, just wanted to say, I didn't know they were gonna do that. I found out after, wasn't my call. But, you gotta admit, this was a lot. I deleted it before he finished. Because no, Ron, this wasn't a lot. This was exactly what happens when people treat someone like a wallet with legs and forget that person has a brain and receipts. I thought that was the end of it. You know, legal steps taken, receipts exposed, fake tears aired on Facebook, done deal, right? But nope. Turns out, people don't like it when their free ride crashes headfirst into accountability. 2 days after I got back from the coast, I got a letter in the mail. Not an email. A physical-ass envelope like we're living in 1996. It was from Brittany's lawyer. Apparently, she was emotionally distressed and claimed I intentionally sabotaged her future by canceling the funeral and maligning her reputation. Are you serious? You forged my signature, tried to rob me blind, and now you're mad because people found out. Screw that. I forwarded it to my lawyer. She didn't even blink. This is posturing, she said. They're panicking. This'll go nowhere. I wanted to believe her. I did. But part of me wasn't surprised Brittany had one more pathetic swing left in her. The real shocker came 3 days later. My lawyer called and said, Jordan, you need to sit down. Not great words to hear, ever. Apparently, Mom and Brittany had opened a joint credit card 2 weeks before Dad passed and used my social security number to secure it. They had the audacity to claim I co-signed for it. Over $9,400 charged in my name. Wedding supplies, plane tickets, a venue deposit for some bougie barn out in Montana. They used my credit to fund a wedding I wasn't even invited to, one that doesn't even exist anymore. I just sat there, jaw clenched so tight I thought a molar might crack. You ever feel so used, so disgusted that your brain just kinda shuts off? That was me. I wasn't angry, I wasn't even shocked, I was just numb. They saw me as a walking FICO score, a blank check, a silent bank account with no overdraft protection. But this time, they went too far, because this was fraud, felony-level fraud. I wasn't letting it slide. That night, I filed a police report. Attached every document, every screenshot, every email. The forged signature on the will added, the fake co-signed credit card highlighted, the recorded ring video of Brittany banging on the door uploaded. Hell, I even included the Instagram Live meltdown. Let the cops see her unravel in real time. Then I sent the entire folder to the fraud department at the credit card company, froze my credit, and flagged both Mom and Brittany with identity theft alerts. You know what's wild? I didn't feel like a badass or some victorious hero. I just felt tired. Like I'd finally stopped holding up a family that never deserved the support to begin with. The fallout was quick. Within 72 hours, Brittany's card was canceled. The wedding venue filed a claim. My bank reversed the damages. And Mom, she called me. That alone was rare enough, but her tone, not angry, not fake cheerful. She sounded scared. Jordan, honey, can we please just talk? This is getting out of control. I didn't even let her finish. Did you use my SSN? She stammered, well, technically it was Brittany who. That's not an answer. Silence. Then she said, and I quote, we were going to pay it off after the honeymoon. It was just a placeholder. You know how expensive weddings are. Oh, you mean the wedding where I wasn't even allowed to show up? Yeah, no, we're done here. You committed a crime. Mom, I said, you stole from me. You lied. You let people believe I was bitter when I was just broke from covering your crap. She started crying, not real tears. I know the difference. She was crying because she got caught. I lost your father. Jordan, she whispered. We were all grieving. No, I replied, cold. You lost your ATM. And I hung up. That was the last time I spoke to her. Later that week, the cops showed up at Brittany's apartment. I don't know if she got arrested or just served, but she was off social media within hours. Her Instagram deleted. Her fiancé long gone. And me, I was sitting in my kitchen with a microwaved burrito and an inbox full of family emails saying, we didn't know. And had we realized what they were doing? And we're so sorry you had to go through that. Save it. Where was all this concern when I was organizing the funeral? Where were you when I was driving 6 hours at 2 a.m. because Dad couldn't breathe? You don't get to play supportive now. I didn't respond to a single one. A few days later, I got a certified letter in the mail. It was from the county clerk. The estate was now solely in my name. No challenges in these, no claims, no delays. My dad's house, the place he built with his own damn hands, was mine. Legally, fully, permanently. I stood in the doorway that evening, keys in hand, looking at the living room where we used to build pillow forts. There was dust in the corners, cracks in the paint, but it was still standing. Unlike everyone who tried to screw me over, I spent the weekend deep cleaning, boxed up Brittany's junk and stacked it on the porch, texted her a single line. Your stuff's outside. Trash pickup is Monday. Never heard back. Then I did something small but symbolic. I took a photo of Dad's old wrench, the one he always kept in the garage, wrapped in an oil rag like it was sacred, and framed it. Hung it above the mantel, where the family photo used to be. This house wasn't theirs anymore. It never was. Last night, I sat out on the back porch with a beer and let the quiet soak in. No Brittany yelling, no Mom guilt-tripping, no bullshit. Just the breeze, the stars, and me. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt not angry, not even relieved. Just free. The next few weeks were quiet. Too quiet, honestly. Like when you know the hurricane already passed, but you're still waiting for one last tree to fall. But nothing did. No calls, no texts, no random surprise. I'm here to talk it out pop-ins. And I started to realize something that hit deeper than all the revenge stuff. They'd moved on, not healed, just rerouted. Brittany switched coasts. Word was she'd moved in with a friend in New Jersey to start fresh. Mom had ghosted everyone, even the extended family group chat. That's how I knew it was real. Because when someone like her goes radio silent, it's not grief, it's shame. And maybe that should have satisfied me, but it didn't. It felt unfinished. Because people like them, they rewrite history. They pretend it wasn't that bad. They tell half-truths until they believe it. And I wasn't going to let that happen. I went back to Dad's Dropbox folder. A few years ago, I'd helped him digitize all our family files: birth certificates, house repairs, medical stuff, receipts, photos. Took us 3 weekends and at least 2 bottles of whiskey. He named the folder for the kids, but really just Jordan. Even then, he knew. Inside that folder, I found gold. The will, the real one, notarized and time-stamped. Copies of the mortgage payments I made. Screenshots of every bill I'd paid in Mom's name since 2018. A letter Dad wrote on his 65th birthday, never sent, addressed to whom it may concern. I opened it. It wasn't long, just a page and a half. But it was enough. If anything ever happens to me, and things get messy, don't believe Brittany's tears. Don't let Diana talk over the truth. Jordan showed up. Always. He paid the bills when no one asked. He made the phone calls no one else wanted to make. He didn't ask for credit. He earned it anyway. I swear, that letter felt heavier than a cinder block. I read it twice, then scanned it. Then I made a new folder, titled The Story They Won't Tell. The next day, I uploaded everything. The letter, the real will, the hospital bills I paid, the flight confirmations, the videos, the voice notes. Then I wrote a short note. I've stayed quiet because I thought silence was the high road, but silence just makes room for lies to grow louder. So here's the truth. Do with it what you want. I didn't send it to just the family. I posted it publicly, on Facebook, Reddit, even LinkedIn. Yeah, I went corporate petty. And the response? Explosive. People who knew Brittany started commenting immediately. Wow, this is not the version she told us. I remember her saying you refused to help. What the hell? I always wondered how she could afford that trip to Cabo. It spread fast. Cousins I hadn't talked to since middle school reached out. Old neighbors deemed me. Even one of Brittany's ex-friends messaged me. Just wanted to say, you're not crazy. We all saw it. We just didn't know the whole thing. Respect. It wasn't about getting sympathy. It was about something deeper. Reclaiming reality. Later that week, I got a package. No name, no return address, just a plain box left at the front door. Inside a framed photo. It was from Brittany. It was one of the old family portraits, the one where she's in the center, Mom's arms around her, Dad off to the side, and I'm cropped halfway like I wandered into the shot by accident. She scribbled on the back, "You've made your point. We're done." No apology, no acknowledgement, just a passive-aggressive mic drop. I almost threw it out, but then I had a better idea. I took the photo to the local print shop, had them crop everyone but me out, blew it up, framed it. Hung it right next to Dad's wrench over the mantle. Petty, sure, but this time, it was personal. I spent the next few weeks rebuilding. Not just the house, though. Yeah, I did replace the cabinets Brittany half destroyed and repainted every inch of that bathroom she called her glam cave. But I also rebuilt my boundaries. Canceled the shared Netflix, deleted every shared calendar invite, blocked numbers, switched banks, changed emergency contacts. Clean slate. One of my clients, an older woman named Elaine, noticed the shift. "You're standing taller these days," she said. I laughed. It's probably the posture class I took after hauling emotional baggage for 3 decades. She smiled. "Whatever it is, you look free." The final chapter came on Dad's birthday. I hosted a small thing, just a few friends, some neighbors who knew him, and 1 or 2 old fishing buddies who still told stories like he was around the corner. We grilled steaks, played Sinatra. I poured a glass of his favorite whiskey and left it on the porch rail. Not for show, just for him. That night, I sat under the string lights with my laptop, pulled up my email, and drafted one last message. To Brittany and Mom. Subject closure. You don't have to respond. In fact, I'd prefer you didn't. You burned a bridge I built with every damn thing I had. And then you tried to steal what was left of it. But the funny thing about bridges, I finally realized I never needed one back to you. I've got the house, I've got the truth, I've got peace. You've got whatever version of the story you're still trying to sell. Keep it. Then I hit send, blocked both, deleted the thread, no hesitation, no regrets. Last weekend, I was out on the porch again. Sun was setting. Air smelled like cedar and ash from the neighbor's fire pit. I was flipping through one of Dad's old fishing journals when I noticed something tucked into the back. A single page, ripped and folded. Freedom isn't walking away, it's knowing you never had to stay. His handwriting, messy, smudged, but still him. I closed the book, took a sip of whiskey, let the quiet sink in, and this time, it wasn't too quiet. It was perfect. A month went by. No drama, no lawyers, no new fake apologies. Honestly, I didn't know what to do with the silence at first. It felt foreign, like moving into a brand new apartment and not knowing where the creaky floorboards are yet. But then I realized that silence, that was the sound of peace, the kind you don't have to earn. The kind that just exists because you finally stopped letting people rent space in your head for free. I started sleeping better. Like deep, uninterrupted, weird dreams kind of sleep. I even started doing stupid little things like making omelets in the morning and buying actual coffee beans instead of relying on gas station sludge. It felt like I was slowly meeting myself again. Not the guy who always bailed everyone out. Not the guy who let guilt do his scheduling. Not the guy who kept his mouth shut to keep the peace. Just a Jordan. One morning, I walked past the hallway where that old family photo used to hang. The blank nail was still there. And I thought, you know what? Screw it. I drove to a local antique shop, bought a massive corkboard, and started pinning things to it. Stuff that mattered. A photo of me and Dad fixing the fence in 08. The receipt from the last fishing trip we took. The note he left me about freedom. A screenshot of the canceled funeral invoice. My business card, the one that says Reyes and Company. Tax planning, because yeah, I run that now. And in the middle, that framed letter from Dad, the one he never sent. I called it the wall of proof, not for anyone else, just for me. Proof that I wasn't crazy. Proof that I did show up. Proof that even when they tried to erase me, I still stood. Around the same time, I got a call from one of Dad's old friends, Bill. Grumpy, retired mechanic with the laugh of a chain smoker and the heart of a golden retriever. Jordan, he barked, you still got your dad's old Chevy? I did. It hadn't run in years, but I couldn't bring myself to sell it. Bring it by the shop, he said. Let's fix her up. On the house. I didn't ask why, I just showed up. We spent 3 weekends under the hood. Swapping parts, sharing stories, arguing over torque specs, eating gas station donuts. It was the most human I'd felt in years. And when we finally turned the key and that old truck coughed back to life, Bill just smiled and said, "Told ya, some things are worth restoring." That stuck with me. Some things are worth restoring, but not people who proved over and over they're not capable of doing the same for you. So I started investing that energy somewhere else. There's a community center 3 blocks from the house, nothing fancy, just a brick building with peeling paint and a paper sign on the door that says free tax help every Thursday. I walked in one afternoon, asked who ran the program. Turns out it was a retired IRS agent named Martha who looked like she could lift me with one arm and out-argue the devil with the other. Need help with your taxes, she asked. Nope, I said, I'm a CPA. She raised an eyebrow. Then what are you doing here? I've got some time now. Thought maybe I could give some of it away. She didn't say anything, just handed me a stack of 1040s and pointed at a folding chair. That's how I started volunteering helping seniors. Single moms, underpaid teachers, the kind of folks who didn't have $300 for a tax appointment. It didn't make headlines. Didn't go viral. But every time someone looked me in the eye and said, "Seriously, thank you for explaining this," I felt something click. Like, this is what I was supposed to be doing all along. A few weeks later, I met Carla. She ran the literacy night on Tuesdays. First time I saw her, she was reading Charlotte's Web to a group of fifth graders like it was a Shakespeare monologue. All animated, big hand gestures, voices and all. After the kids left, she caught me smiling and said, "You're either judging me or you're impressed." "Little of both," I replied. She laughed and handed me a flyer for a volunteer drive. "Come through." I did. Then I came back the next week, and the one after that. We started grabbing coffee after cleanup nights, then walks after coffee, and eventually dinner after walks. She didn't ask about my family, didn't pry into the drama. She just asked about me. Books I liked, foods I hated, what I'd do if I had no bills for a year. Questions no one in my life had ever thought to ask. It felt weird at first being seen without being needed, but damn, it felt good too. One night, I told her the whole story. Brittany, the will, the credit card fraud, the wedding that imploded, everything. She didn't flinch, didn't try to fix it, didn't say, "Family is complicated." She just said, "I'm glad you walked away. That takes guts." And I swear, I felt something in my chest finally loosen. A few days ago, I went out to the garage. The truck was spotless, shined up like a movie car. I slid into the driver's seat, turned the key, and just sat there for a second. Then I pulled out of the driveway. Not fast, not dramatic, just steady. I drove out to the coast, the same cabin I'd stayed in when all this mess first started. When I got there, I parked, pulled out my phone, and took a photo of the sun setting behind the truck. Captioned it, "Not back, forward." Didn't tag anyone, didn't need to. Posted it, logged off. That night, I stood on the beach with my feet in the water and Dad's fishing journal in my hands. Last page had something he scribbled barely legible, probably during a pain flare-up. "Forgiveness is optional, peace is not." I whispered it out loud. Then I closed the book, put it in my backpack, and walked back to the cabin. No tears, no epiphanies. Just peace. 6 months later, the house feels different now. Not just cleaner or quieter, though it is both of those, but like it finally belongs to me. Not a haunted museum of fake family values, not a shared battlefield where everyone kept score. Just mine. The paint's fresh, the garden's growing, the upstairs office fully renovated. It's got big windows now, a new desk, and the chair Dad always said he was too cheap to buy but too old to sit without. I bought it. Because screw it, you deserve the comfortable chair. You always did. Carla comes over most weekends. We cook, watch old movies. She brings her dog, Murphy, who's somehow allergic to silence and my throw pillows. We're not official or whatever. We're just easy, effortless. Sometimes she stays the night. Sometimes she leaves her book half finished on the coffee table and I finish it the next day. Then pretend I didn't when she comes back. We don't talk about the future in capital F terms. No "where is this going" vibes. Just "what time are you coming by?" And that's more than enough. The community center asked me to speak last month. Nothing dramatic, just a 10-minute spot during a fundraiser about how giving back changed your life. I laughed when they asked. Changed it, I said. It rebuilt it. I got up that night, jeans, t-shirt, nothing fancy, and just told the truth. How I spent years being a silent fixer. How I paid the bills and planned the funerals and took the hits that no one else wanted. And how I thought maybe that would earn me a permanent seat at the table. But here's the thing. I told the room, some tables weren't built for you. And that's okay. Build your own. Bring your own chair. Invite people who don't make you shrink to fit. There was this silence after I finished. Then applause. Not thunderous, standing ovation stuff. Just steady, human, honest. And in the back, Carla raised a paper cup like a toast. Brittany never responded to the closure email. Mom, either they vanished from my world like old clothes I outgrew. And no, I don't stalk their socials. I don't check mutual contacts. I don't dig. Because I don't care what narrative they're pushing. I've got my own now. A real one, with proof. The neighbors finally stopped asking about what happened. Guess they got tired of me answering. Oh, just burn the rot out of the family tree. Now they just wave from their yards like we're all pretending none of us saw the implosion. And honestly, I'm fine with that. Small talk and clean boundaries go great together. Dad's truck, the Chevy we fixed up, has become kind of a legend in the neighborhood. I drive it once a week, mostly to the store or to the park where Murphy loses his mind chasing squirrels. Every time I start it, I think of Dad muttering, "You flood the engine again. I'm gonna haunt your ass." I never do. And maybe he's still haunting me, just in the good way now. Aunt Linda sends postcards sometimes. She always writes something short but solid, like, "Proud of you, always was, love, L." One of them had a photo of us from the 90s, me in overalls, holding a frog, smiling like an idiot. She wrote, "You were always the brave one." That one made me cry. Not a lot, not sobbing, just one of those, okay, yeah, maybe I needed that moments while folding laundry. Sometimes a single sentence cracks the wall you didn't know you'd built. One morning, I was organizing old files and found a letter I forgot I wrote. To myself, from 2 years ago, during the height of the madness. It said, "You don't have to be the hero to be worthy. You don't have to prove your pain. You don't owe anyone a goddamn explanation. Just walk. Keep walking." I reread it 3 times, then I pinned it to the wall of proof, next to Dad's letter. Because turns out, I was right all along, now. I get up early, not out of stress, out of rhythm. I make real breakfast. I text people back. I watch the way light hits the walls at 9:12 a.m. and think, this used to be the time I'd feel my chest clench. But it doesn't anymore. People still ask sometimes. Do you regret it? Meaning, the nuclear response, the no contact, the public receipts, the full scorched earth closure. And here's what I say, every single time. No, I regret not doing it sooner. Because peace isn't about forgiveness. It's about access. Who gets it? Who doesn't? Who earned it? And who damn sure didn't? Last week, I got an email from a random guy on Reddit. Said he read my story. Said it made him call his sister and finally say, "I'm done." Not with malice, just with clarity. He said, "I thought it would feel cold, but it felt like setting down a backpack full of bricks I didn't even know I was carrying." I wrote back, "Exactly." Sometimes revenge is loud, but sometimes it's quiet. It's the locked doors, the changed numbers, the do not forward address at the post office. It's the way your voice stops shaking when you say no. It's the dinner you eat in peace, the bill you pay without anyone else's name on it, the night you sleep without rehearsing that argument you'll never have again. That's the revenge that matters. And now I live like the kind of man Dad would have respected. Not because I won some war, but because I walked away from a fight that wasn't worth staying bloody for. I teach people how to fix their finances. I listen without trying to solve. I love without keeping score. I rest without apology. Sometimes I still hear his voice in the house. Especially late at night. Usually when the wind rattles the window or Murphy barks at nothing like he's just remembered he's got trauma too. Dad's voice says stuff like, "You were never the problem." Or, "Told you that truck would run." I smile, whisper, yeah, and go back to sleep, because I earned this. All of it. The house, the peace, the silence. And most of all, The version of myself I finally got to meet when I stopped shrinking to fit someone else's story. Story 2. You ever get a letter so ironic, you almost laugh before the pain kicks in? That was me the day a heavy gold envelope landed in my mailbox, nestled between bills and junk like some royal decree. The handwriting was familiar, cursive so dramatic, it practically screamed, "We think we're better than you." It was an invitation to the Callahan family gala, an event so exclusive they once skipped my birthday because it conflicted with preparation. I'm Clara Monroe, or as my family likes to remember me, the artsy disappointment. Not Ivy League, not a banker, just an architect. I used to think that was enough, until they didn't even bother pretending to care. I traced the embossed lettering on the envelope like it might cut me. It read, "You're cordially invited to the annual Callahan Gala, hosted at the Silver Spire." The Silver Spire, my building. But they didn't know that. Not yet. I almost threw the invite away. Almost. But then I saw the name printed at the bottom in bold: Lucinda Callahan. My cousin, the one who once laughed in my face when I mentioned designing low-income housing. "You're too idealistic," she'd said, sipping overpriced wine while I sipped water. "You'll grow out of that." I didn't. Turns out I grew into something else entirely. I built Monroe Design Group from scratch. No trust fund, no insider investors, no Callahan name, just me, a battered laptop, and a dream that people deserved buildings that cared about them. Now, my work stretches across 6 countries, and the Silver Spire, my signature, my triumph, my revenge. Lucinda, though she had no idea, she thought she booked it through a fancy broker, paid 40% above market. By the way, my doing. She wanted a skyline backdrop for her self-importance. She's getting one. Just not the kind she expects. When I called the broker, I told them exactly what to say. We'd be honored to host the Callahan Gala. Miss Monroe has always admired their legacy. I could almost hear the smug grin forming on Lucinda's face from across the city. She still thinks I'm in my little studio, drafting dream homes for nonprofits. To her, modest lifestyle equals failure. Funny, isn't it that I own the tower she thinks she conquered? My assistant, Theo, peeked into my office later that afternoon. "Should I confirm the audiovisual requests for the Callahan event?" he asked, eyebrow raised like he knew I was up to something. "Yeah," I said, "and make sure the LED wall in the main hall is crystal clear. I want it ready at 7:15 sharp." Theo didn't ask questions. He just nodded, smirking. That's what I love about him: loyal, discreet, and far smarter than most people give him credit for. I leaned back in my chair, the skyline stretching before me, the Silver Spire glowing like a sword stabbed into the sky. Every steel beam, every glass panel, it was mine. And now the Callahans would gather in it, blind to the truth. The next morning, I got the first ripple. Lucinda called. Her voice was syrupy as ever. "Clara, you got the invite. Right, it must have been a surprise, huh?" I let her talk. Something about senators attending, a Michelin-starred chef, how I might feel out of place. She tossed in a fake laugh, the kind you hear at charity luncheons from people who never give. I smiled through the call. I wouldn't miss it. "Really?" she said, like I'd just offered to scrub her shoes. I almost said, "Sweetheart, you're about to throw a gala in my lobby," but I didn't, not yet. Instead, I asked, "Was it hard booking the Silver Spire?" "Oh, totally," she purred. "The owner's team was tough, but I pulled a few strings." I bit my lip to stop the laugh. The only string she pulled was her own ego. I signed off on a rental agreement last week right after jacking up the price and tagging the rental file Project Vanity. That evening, I made another move. A quiet one. I reached out to a contact who ran a small, gossip-heavy Instagram page that catered to Chicago's elite. I submitted an anonymous tip. Rumor has it, the Callahan Gala nearly didn't happen due to budget mismanagement. Is the empire crumbling? Petty maybe, satisfying incredibly. By morning, The post had been reshared over 700 times. Lucinda's curated brand, wealthy, graceful, powerful, had a crack in it now. And I was just getting started. A few days later, I had lunch with my younger brother, Jamie. He's the only one in the family who never treated me like a joke. "You're really doing this?" he asked between bites of sushi. I nodded. He grinned. "Can I come early and watch the meltdown from the control booth? I'll save you a seat," I said. Then, I slid him a copy of the gala agenda. Screens go live at 7:15. By 7:20, no one in that ballroom will see me the same. Back at the office, I stared at the layout of the main hall. At one end, a stage. At the other, a towering LED wall that would flash the name Monroe Design Group in golden lettering. My name, my brand, my legacy. And once the reveal hits, they'll see the real architect behind their grand event, not the ordinary cousin they forgot to invite to weddings, baby showers, or their latest startup brunches. But here's the thing. This wasn't just revenge. This was therapy, justice, a long overdue course correction. Every time they said, "Why can't you just join the bank?" or "You don't really fit in with our crowd," I swallowed the shame. Now they'll swallow the truth. And that truth is made of steel and glass and 57 stories that point to the sky like a middle finger in architectural form. The day of the gala arrived, cloaked in rain and drama. Chicago skies were moody, gray, and theatrical, just like the family about to walk into my skyscraper. I stood in front of the massive windows of my penthouse office, sipping coffee from a mug that read, "Design, Defy, Dominate." My staff buzzed in the ballroom 15 floors below, fine-tuning details to my specifications. I didn't need to be down there. I'd already laid the trap, a custom floral arch framing the ballroom's main screen. The gold and emerald color scheme Lucinda insisted on reflected in the menu, the lights, even the damn macarons. Her delusions, dressed to perfection. And at 7:15, the show would begin. At 6:45 p.m., I flipped on the security monitors. My building was crawling with Callahans. Lucinda's arrival was first. She exited a black SUV with all the flair of a minor royal. Emerald dress, champagne flute already in hand, flanked by 2 assistants and a personal stylist, barking into their earpieces like this was the Oscars. She paused by the marble steps of the Silver Spire's entrance, posing as photographers snapped shots, a subtle tilt of her chin, a fake smile like a porcelain mask. I zoomed in on the monitor, watching her lips move. Make sure the screens show my name when I enter. "Oh, Lucinda, you're going to get your name all right. Right after mine swallows it whole." By 7:05, the ballroom glowed. Gold uplighting shimmered off the champagne towers. A jazz trio filled the space with soft elegance. My staff wore smiles and neutrality like armor. Callahans filled the room decked in custom gowns, crisp tuxedos, and egos the size of Lake Michigan. I watched from my office. Every screen and feed routed through a private dashboard. Theo stood in the shadows of the ballroom, earpiece in, watching for my cue. Then, the fun began. At 7:12, Lucinda stood at the center of the crowd, cradling a microphone. "Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight to celebrate the Callahan legacy," she began, smug and syrupy. It took a lot of effort, and quite frankly, a few miracles. To secure this venue, I'm told the Silver Spire only hosts the best. Someone clapped, then others joined. She beamed. "We are proud to represent elegance, heritage, and ambition." I clicked a button. Theo's voice came through my earpiece. "Screens in 30 seconds. Boss," I smiled. "Let's light it up." 7:15 p.m. The chandeliers dimmed. The room stilled. The main screen flickered, a black background glowing gold. Then came the words, "Designed, owned, operated. Monroe Design Group." CEO Clara Monroe. Gasps rippled like thunder. Camera phones whipped up, whispers became static. Lucinda's face froze. She blinked, lips parted slightly, caught mid-sentence as the room tilted out from under her. I stepped into the elevator, heart steady, heels sharp. By the time the doors opened on the ballroom level, the screen had transitioned into a highlight reel. Footage of my projects across the globe. Tokyo's Sky Nest, Barcelona's solar glass condos, the sustainable housing in rural Nevada, headlines, interviews, time-lapse clips of construction. And at the center, the silver spire, my crown jewel. I walked through the gold-trimmed hallway, past waiters frozen mid-pour, guests still absorbing what was happening. I entered the ballroom like a ghost no one expected to return. Lucinda saw me first, then her mouth twitched. Clara. I kept walking. Clara, what is this? She demanded. My voice was calm. This is the truth. The room was dead quiet. I turned to the crowd. Welcome to my building. I'm Clara Monroe, architect, owner, and the woman you didn't invite until you thought I was beneath you. I let the words hang. People glanced at one another. Several guests had their phones out, recording. Lucinda tried to laugh, but it cracked halfway out. You're joking. This has to be a mistake. I looked at Theo. He nodded. The screens shifted again, this time to a contract. Rental agreement for Silver Spire Ballroom approved by C. Monroe, CEO. 50% rate premium applied. Lucinda's hand flew to her chest. Oh, and Lucinda, I added, that markup, consider it a legacy tax. A few gasps turned into laughter, quiet, shocked, a little delighted. Some people lived for drama. They'd be talking about this for years. Lucinda stepped forward, voice shaking. This is humiliating. You planned this just to embarrass me. No, I said. I planned this so you'd see me. I scanned the room. All of you. You wrote me off because I didn't chase finance. Because I cared more about skylines than stock markets. I was too ordinary. I paused. Che. Tell me, do you still think that now? More silence. Then someone clapped. It started slow, hesitant, but others followed. Even a couple of distant cousins who used to mock my career posted it on their stories. Clara Monroe, CEO. OMG. Irony. It aged well. Lucinda tried one last jab. This is petty. You're bitter. No one cares who designed the building. Oh, I know, I said. You've made that clear for years. I turned toward the crowd again. But when you book a venue to celebrate your status and the woman you dismissed owns it, that's not just irony, that's karma. I could see it in their faces now. The realization, the cracks forming, the hierarchy falling. I wasn't the outsider anymore. I was the architect of their world. After the reveal, the party limped forward. People tried to dance, drink, recover. Lucinda disappeared, probably to regroup or cry in a corner. I didn't care. I stood at the bar, sipping Prosecco as guests trickled by to congratulate me. One even whispered, honestly, that was legendary. Ira, my younger cousin, the only Callahan who ever treated me like a human, approached with watery eyes. I had no idea. She said, Clara, you built all this. I nodded. She hugged me so tight I nearly broke. I'm sorry for how they treated you, she whispered. I know, I said. You're not like them. Later that night, when the last guests had trickled out and the DJ was packing up, I returned to my office. I looked out over the city, glittering and indifferent, and I smiled. The Callahans entered that ballroom thinking they were royalty. They left realizing they were guests. Guests in the empire of the cousin they erased. You'd think exposing your family at their own gala would be the end of the story, but it wasn't. It was just the moment everything cracked open. The morning after the reveal, my phone was a battlefield. Texts, missed calls, voicemails with voices I hadn't heard in years. Lucinda tried calling 6 times before giving up and switching to email. Subject, can we please talk? No greeting, no apology. Just a paragraph full of excuses dressed up as self-reflection. My favorite line, I didn't mean to belittle your work. Right. You accidentally spent a decade treating me like wallpaper and suddenly want to rewrite the past because your status took a hit on social media. I didn't respond. The gossip cycle moved fast. By lunchtime, a clip of my reveal hit 80,000 views. A random guest had filmed the moment the screens lit up with my name. TikTok loved the drama. POV, when the ordinary cousin turns out to be the boss. Commenters called it peak karma, Oscar-worthy, the ultimate power move. Some even asked if I was single. I laughed once, then I cried. Because it wasn't about going viral. Not for me. It was about finally being seen. And realizing that came with its own kind of loneliness. Jamie called around noon. She's spiraling. He said, Lucinda's trying to do damage control. She's posting inspirational quotes about growth through discomfort. I snorted. She is the discomfort. He chuckled, then paused. Are you okay? I hesitated. I should be, but I don't know. And that was the truth. I'd been so focused on the moment of impact, I hadn't thought about the emotional aftershocks. It's weird, standing in victory and still feeling the ache of old rejection, like finally getting a seat at the table and realizing you don't even want to eat with them anymore. That night, I stayed late at the Silver Spire. My staff had gone home. The ballroom was spotless again, like nothing ever happened, but it did. I walked through the space slowly, hand trailing the edge of the now empty bar. My heels echoed. My reflection shimmered in the dark windows. And suddenly, I wasn't 34-year-old CEO Clara Monroe. I was 16, sitting alone in a too-big dress, watching my cousins laugh at a table I wasn't invited to. I was 23, fresh out of grad school, getting side eyes when I said I'd rather build schools than banks. I was all the versions of myself they had dismissed. And now I stood here, surrounded by marble and glass I built with my bare hands. You're not invisible anymore, I told myself. But part of me still felt like I was. The next day, my father showed up. No call, no warning, just walked into my office like he had a right to be there. He hadn't attended the gala. He never did public spectacles, but someone must have told him what happened. Maybe it was the clip. Maybe it was the look on Lucinda's face in the thumbnail. He stood by the window, silent for a long time. Then finally you embarrassed the family. I let out a hollow laugh. Takes a lot to embarrass a family that pretends I don't exist. He turned to face me, his jaw clenched, voice low. I may not have agreed with your choices, but this was cruel. I stared at him. Cruel as cutting off your daughter because she didn't follow the blueprint you set. He didn't respond, so I gave him more. Do you know what it felt like to work my way through architecture school while you bragged about your niece's wedding florist, to launch my company while you told people I was doing some creative thing? You didn't just ignore me, you erased me. His face changed then. Not anger, not pride, something like shame. But I didn't need his apology anymore. I just needed the truth out in the air, like a bruise turned visible. That weekend, Ira stopped by. She brought croissants and 2 iced coffees, like we were kids again, sneaking pastries before brunch. We sat on my balcony, the city glittering beneath us. I wish I'd said something sooner. She said, I always saw how they treated you, but I didn't want to be next. I nodded. I get it. We all played roles. You were the peacemaker, I was the problem. You were never the problem, she whispered. You were just inconvenient. That one hurt because it was true. We stayed out there for hours, talking, laughing, crying a little. It felt honest. Real, something I hadn't had in years with anyone carrying the Callahan name. Before she left, I handed her a slim envelope. She blinked. "What's this?" "Something I've been working on," I said. "It's a design draft. Your nonprofit gets first rights to the next community housing project, free of charge." Her mouth dropped. "Clara." "No conditions," I said. "You believed in me when no one else did. I believe in what you're doing." She hugged me so hard I lost breath. And in that moment, I realized something: not all bridges need to burn. Some just need better foundations. Lucinda's PR apology came 2 days later. She posted a reel of her walking through an empty ballroom. Yes, my ballroom voiceover playing over soft piano music. "We all make mistakes. What matters is how we grow. I'm learning. I'm listening. And I'm grateful for the women in my life who challenge me." Comments were mixed. Some praised her humility. Others posted popcorn emojis and said, "Girl, you got roasted." I didn't engage. She was learning, maybe. Or maybe she was just embarrassed. Either way, not my responsibility. By the end of the week, the dust had settled, mostly. My inbox was quieter. My mind wasn't. I kept thinking about that night. The way people looked at me. The flash of admiration. The flicker of fear. And how none of it changed the ache that lingered under my ribs. Because success doesn't erase old wounds. It just gives you the tools to build around them. A week later, I got a package. No note, inside a photo. One of those old, overposed family portraits, everyone in expensive clothes, fake smiling, but this time, I wasn't cropped out. In fact, I was in the center, circled in red ink, and underneath, in slanted handwriting, "Guess we missed the real legacy." I stared at it for a long time. Then I framed it and put it in my office. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. It's strange how quiet victory feels. There was no champagne toast, no "I told you so," no slow clap echoing through my penthouse. Just the steady hum of the Silver Spire's HVAC and the sound of me breathing in a world I'd built without them. And still my name never felt louder. A week after the gala, I got another call from my father. I didn't answer, not because I was angry, but because I wasn't ready to do his emotional labor for him. He left a voicemail. His voice was rough around the edges. "Clara, I've been thinking about everything. Maybe we can talk about the past, about the future." He paused. I saw the clip. "You did good." That was the closest thing to pride I'd ever heard from him. I saved the voicemail, but I didn't call back, not yet. Lucinda, on the other hand, she didn't stop calling. She wanted to meet, just to clear the air, but every message she sent was laced with a familiar tone, less apology, more optics. She was spiraling. Her gala had been the talk of elite circles, but for all the wrong reasons. People weren't praising her vision. They were asking about me. Clara Monroe, the architect, the one she dismissed. That shift being talked about instead of over was addictive, but I didn't want fame. I wanted freedom. The Silver Spire's rooftop restaurant, Haven, had a view that made people quiet. One morning, I sat at my usual corner table, sipping espresso while reviewing blueprints for a new community space in Detroit. Ira joined me, windblown and smiling, holding 2 muffins she brought as tribute. "You okay?" she asked, sliding into the seat. I nodded. Better than I expected. She leaned forward. "Did you ever imagine it would feel like this?" Honestly, I didn't imagine anything at all. I just wanted to survive. And now, I looked out over the skyline. Now I want to rebuild, but not with them. With people who saw me before I had anything to prove. Lucinda finally got her meeting, but not on her terms. I invited her to Haven at 8 a.m., no entourage, no publicist, She showed up late, wearing oversized sunglasses and silence like armor. I waited. When she sat down, I simply said, "You have 5 minutes." She flinched, like I'd slapped her with time itself. "I was wrong," she began, "about you, about everything. I panicked. I didn't expect the backlash." "You mean you didn't expect consequences?" I corrected. She nodded, barely. "I didn't come to grovel," she added. "Good," I said, "because forgiveness isn't a transaction." She fell silent. Then, softly, "You were never ordinary, Clara. We just needed you to be, so we felt bigger." That landed. It hurt in that old, dull way betrayal does when it stops bleeding and becomes scar tissue. I didn't respond. I just stood, placed the check on the table, and said, "Next time you host a gala, try building the roof first." Then I walked away. The Callahans didn't implode after the gala. They rebranded, pivoted, posted cryptic Instagram captions about family growth and redefining legacy. But something shifted in their eyes when they saw me after that. Not hate, not even resentment. Just fear, not of me, but of who I reminded them they could have been. If they weren't so obsessed with legacy by blood instead of legacy by impact, Ira and I got lunch every Friday after that. Sometimes she brought updates from her nonprofit. Sometimes she brought gossip. Once she brought old photos she found while cleaning out her mother's house. In one of them, I was 9, building a tower out of cereal boxes at the kitchen table. "Look at your face," she laughed. "You were so serious." I stared at the picture. I remembered that day. Lucinda had torn my paper tower apart when no one was watching. Said it was childish. I'd cried silently and rebuilt it in secret. I didn't realize until now I'd been doing that my whole life. 3 months later, I launched a new initiative. Project Groundwork, entitles, a fund dedicated to supporting overlooked female architects, designers, and urban planners, especially those told they were too soft, too quiet, or too ordinary. The press asked why I started it. My answer: I know what it's like to build with no blueprints, to be erased. Project Groundwork isn't charity. It's course correction. The applications flooded in. I felt more seen by those anonymous submissions than I ever did at a Callahan dinner table. One line from a 22-year-old applicant stuck with me. They told me I had to follow their map. "Thank you for proving we can draw our own." The Silver Spire's top-floor conference room now holds a new piece of art. It's a framed blueprint, my very first draft of the Silver Spire, hand-sketched in my grad school apartment, smudged, imperfect, real. Underneath it, a plaque. Clara Monroe, founder, built from silence, raised on rejection, anchored in resolve. The day we hung it, Theo looked at me and said, "You ever going to let yourself be proud?" I smiled. "I'm trying." The truth is, I never wanted revenge. I wanted recognition. But somewhere along the way, I realized the most powerful recognition is the kind you give yourself. They called me too quiet. So I built a tower that echoed. They said I was unremarkable. So I became the architect of a skyline. They buried me in pity. And I used it as fertilizer. Do I forgive them? Some days, yes, some days, I remember everything. The cold looks, the missed invites. The way they made me feel like I was nothing without their approval. But I've stopped needing answers from people who never learned to ask the right questions. Ira once told me, "You turn their insults into blueprints." She's right. Every jab, every slight, every time I was labeled too small, that was a brick. And now? Now I live in a palace built from all the things they thought would break me. I still get those gala invites. They don't send them with smugness anymore. They send them with caution. But I never attend, not because I'm bitter, but because I'm busy. Busy designing futures, busy mentoring dreamers, busy living a life that doesn't need their applause to feel real. And sometimes, when I walk past the silver spire late at night and see it glowing against the city sky, I whisper, "They called me ordinary. But I built the extraordinary." Thank you for listening. If you've ever been underestimated, dismissed, or told you didn't belong, drop your story in the comments. Let this be your blueprint. We don't need their stages anymore. We build our own. Story 3. I was the one they called reliable. Not smart like my brother, not charming, just dependable. The one who always figured things out until I stopped doing that for them. Let me take you back to the moment that changed everything. I'm Jamie Linwood, 34 years old, and a software engineer based in Seattle. I built my life from scratch. No trust fund, no lifelines, just late nights, side hustles, and enough caffeine to legally qualify as blood doping. Every vacation, reunion, and family emergency seemed to orbit around one place, the Linwood Lake House. 4 bedrooms, wraparound porch, miles of water and fog-kissed pines. It was supposed to be our family retreat, but I was the only one paying for it. Over 7 years, I sank $91,000 into that place. Taxes, repairs, new roof, a dock that my mom said was essential for atmosphere. I did it all without asking for anything back, until the day I found out what they were really hiding. It started at my parents' anniversary dinner. My younger brother, Owen, waltzed in 30 minutes late, sporting a tailored jacket, designer shoes, and the same smug little grin he always wore when Mom and Dad were watching. I helped set the table, paid for the catering, cleaned up a plumbing mess in the basement that morning. My hands still smelled like bleach when Owen popped open a bottle of imported wine. "Where's this from?" I asked, half joking. "Oh, Bordeaux," he said with a shrug. Dad figured I should learn the good stuff. Mom chuckled, and then came the line that cracked something deep in me. "He has a future to protect, Jamie." I froze. "What's that supposed to mean?" I asked. Too casual, voice tight. "Oh," she waved it off. "You know, you're settled. Owen's still finding his path." I swallowed hard. I've been settled since I was 26. That's how long I've been holding this family together. The next morning, I couldn't let it go. That phrase, "he has a future to protect." It kept spinning in my brain like bad code in a loop. So I drove to the lake house. Needed air, space, clarity. The place was quiet, still, lake mist clinging to the windows like ghosts. I walked into the study, Dad's old office. I rarely went in. It always felt off limits, but something pulled me to his desk. I opened a drawer, then another, bottom right, locked. I shouldn't have, but I did. Used a toolkit from the garage to pop the latch. Inside a thick folder labeled simply, "O, Linwood Private." My stomach dropped. I opened it. First page, revocable trust agreement, Owen Linwood. The number made my chest clench. $600,000. Set up 4 years ago. Signed by both my parents. There were bank statements. 2. Transfers from my parents' joint account into an investment portfolio marked for Owen's personal and professional development. That year, I paid $14,800 for dock restoration after a storm, $3,700 for Mom's new kitchen tiles, $7,200 for Owen's moving costs when he wanted to try LA. And they were secretly stockpiling 6 figures for him. My name wasn't mentioned, not once. I didn't confront them right away. I couldn't. I drove home in silence. Sat on my couch, lights off, trust fund papers clutched like a bad dream I couldn't wake up from. I thought about all the small things over the years. How Owen got a brand new car at 18 while I took the bus to my community college classes. How I paid for every family Airbnb while Owen forgot to Venmo. How I built them a smart security system at the lake house for free. They said I didn't need help. They said I was fine. 3 days later, I got a text from Dad. Hey, need you to handle the property tax for the lake house again. Due Monday. No, please. No, thank you. Just expected. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the text to my friend Rachel, a financial consultant I trusted with everything. She called me immediately. Wait, how much have you actually spent on that place? I gave her the number $91,230 not counting interest. She whistled. Jamie, that's nearly the cost of your own down payment on a second property, and they've got a 6-figure trust for your brother. Silence. Cut them off, she said, now. That night, I started pulling receipts, utility bills, repair invoices, screenshots of bank transfers. Every expense tied to that lake house was a scar I hadn't realized I was collecting. I opened my online banking and canceled every auto payment. Electricity, gone. Water, cut. Internet, canceled. And then I sent one group email. Subject: Linwood Lake House expenses. Effective immediately, I will no longer be financially responsible for the lake house or any family-related costs. Please find attached a breakdown of contributions I've made over the past 7 years. Total $91,230. I suggest you consider adjusting any future plans accordingly. Jamie, the reaction. Nuclear. Owen called first. Dude, what the hell? Mom said the house's internet is down. I didn't flinch. Not my problem. What's your deal lately? I paused. You ever heard of your trust fund? Owen. Silence. Geez, then a quiet, you weren't supposed to know? That was it. No apology, no explanation, just guilt. I hung up. The next day, Mom texted, one line, we're disappointed in your behavior. Not sorry, not we messed up, just disappointment for not continuing to bankroll their lives. That's when it hit me. They didn't just favor Owen. They used me. I was the scaffolding for their golden child, and I had just walked away. The silence from my family was deafening. Not the peaceful kind, the loaded kind, like air thick with smoke right before a fire breaks out. After I cut them off, nobody called to ask why. They already knew. They just didn't like the answer. And I didn't like being the fool who paid $91,000 to stay invisible. 2 days after my email, I got a voicemail from my dad. Jamie, this isn't how we do things. Let's talk. Taxes are coming up on the house. You can't just walk away. No apology, no regret, just a reminder that, in his eyes, I was still responsible for everyone else's comfort. I didn't reply. Instead, I pulled up the county records for the lake house. And that's when I found something that made me freeze. My name on the deed. 60% ownership. Listed quietly in the property records from 2016, the same year I paid for the new roof. Probably slipped in to reduce their estate tax exposure. They never told me. Never even hinted. They used my name to protect their asset, while treating me like a tenant. And now it was leverage. I called Rachel, my financial consultant, She whistled when she saw the document. Jamie, this changes everything. You don't just have the moral high ground. You have legal ground. What do? I asked. She smiled. You let them know it's no longer their house, it's yours, too. The next weekend, I drove to the lake house. When I arrived, the driveway was full. Mom, Dad, Owen, and his girlfriend, probably here to sort me out. I walked in without knocking. Jamie, Dad said, standing up, arms crossed. I dropped the property deed on the kitchen counter, just came to check on my investment. Mom's face paled. Owen's mouth hung open. You knew I was listed on this, I said to Dad, and never told me. But I was good enough to pay for your water heater, wasn't I? Jamie, my mother started. I cut her off. I own 60% of this house, which means you don't make the rules anymore. You wouldn't, Owen blurted out. You wouldn't sell your share. I turned to him. Calm, watch me. Back home, I called a lawyer. Her name was Shay Cohen Sharp. Fast, zero tolerance for manipulation. After reviewing the deed, she laid out my options. You can force a partition sale, meaning if the other owners don't buy your share, the court can order the whole house sold and divide the proceeds. I blinked. They'd lose everything. Only if they care more about pride than paying you what you're owed. I almost smiled. It wasn't revenge, it was justice. That week, I sent a formal notice to Greg and Marianne Linwood, co-owners subject lake house partition or buyout option. As 60% title holder of the Linwood Lake House, I am initiating legal proceedings unless an agreement is reached within 30 days to buy out my share at fair market value. I attached an appraisal from a local realtor, $740,000, which meant my share was worth $444,000, a lot more than Owen's secret trust fund. And this time, I wasn't asking. The backlash was immediate. Mom called, crying, "You're tearing this family apart." Dad followed up with, "You're blackmailing us." And Owen showed up at my office. He stormed past reception, red-faced, "You're ruining everything. Over what, some money?" I stood. "Some money," I said, stepping toward him. "You got a $600,000 trust fund while I paid for your life and kept this family afloat. That's not some money. That's my entire adulthood." He looked stunned. I didn't ask for the trust. "No," I said, voice low, "but you took it, and you knew." For once, he had nothing to say. Days passed. My parents' silence cracked when I got a message from my Aunt Marla. She'd heard Jamie is suing the family over the lake house. I sent her the full breakdown of what I'd paid: $17,000 for repairs, $9,800 for utilities, $19,000 for Owen's move and failed startup, $31,000 in property taxes. When she called back, her voice shook. "They never told us. I just thought you were helping because you could." I let out a bitter laugh. That's the story they like to tell. A week later, I got an offer, not from my parents. From Owen. He wanted to meet just us. We sat outside a cafe near Green Lake. No greetings, just tension. He pushed an envelope across the table. Inside a check for $200,000, his half of the trust fund. "I convinced Dad to let me give you this. He said he's not happy." "Why now?" I asked. "Because I finally saw it," he said. "The way they used you. The way I used you." The check trembled in my hands, but not from joy. From fury. "You watched me pay your tuition," I whispered. "You asked for gas money while sitting on $500,000. He nodded. Ashamed. I was selfish. I didn't know how to stop taking. I looked at the check again, then pocketed it, not because it fixed things, but because it proved I wasn't crazy. The next day, I paused the partition sale process, not canceled, just paused. Then I met with my lawyer. Instead of a sale, I said, "I want to put a lien on the house. I'll give them 6 months to either buy me out or sign over full ownership." "You want it all?" Shay asked. I shook my head. "I want options." Because now, I held the power, not them. Mom finally called. Voice brittle. "You've made your point," she said. "Are you proud?" I sighed. I didn't want this war. I just wanted to be treated like I mattered. She didn't reply. She hung up. I stared at the screen, then at the lake house photos on my wall, laughing cousins, grilled fish, kayaks cutting through glassy water. And I realized I didn't miss the house. I missed believing we were all in it together. That night, I opened a new folder on my computer. Project my future. No more repair invoices. No more utility receipts. Just dreams I'd shelved while carrying them, because I wasn't going to be their foundation anymore. I was going to build something of my own. The knock came on a Thursday night. I was barefoot, halfway through a bowl of pasta and a rerun of Parks and Rec, when my building security buzzed me. "It's your family," the guard said. "Which part of it?" "All of them." I opened my door 15 minutes later to my mom, Dad, and Owen, standing in the hallway like a group staged for intervention. Except I wasn't the addict. They were addicted to the idea that I'd always pick up the bill, always forgive, always come back. Not anymore. "Jamie," Mom said, trying to smile like this wasn't completely insane. I didn't move. "Why are you here?" "We need to talk," Dad said gruffly. "Face to face, not over texts, not through lawyers." He emphasized that last word like it was a slur. I stepped aside without saying a word. They filed in, looking like they'd just been called to the principal's office. Owen kept his distance. He looked older, quieter. I shut the door and crossed my arms. "Talk!" They didn't start with an apology. Of course not. They started with a strategy. "We're willing to compensate you," my dad said, sliding a folder across my table like he was back in corporate. "We hired a mediator. We can offer $300,000 buyout. Clean break. We keep the house." I didn't touch the folder. "You've done the math." "Huh," I said. Mom's face twitched. "This doesn't have to get uglier, Jamie." "It's not ugly," I said calmly. "It's finally honest." Owen cleared his throat. "I told them to come. I thought maybe if we sat down." I held up a hand. "Owen, you gave me a check. That was more than either of them have ever done. But don't think that erases everything." He looked away. I turned to my parents. "I spent 7 years being your silent investor. You cashed my time, my money, my trust, and when I found out about Owen's trust fund, you didn't apologize. You accused me of greed." My mom's lip trembled, but she said nothing. "And now," I continued, "you're here with an offer because you're afraid I'll win." Dad's face hardened. "You won't destroy our legacy over a few mistakes?" That snapped it. "A few mistakes," I said, louder now. "You used my name on the deed without telling me. You took my money, year after year, and never even offered to pay me back. And you think this house is a legacy?" I leaned forward. "This house is a receipt." The silence hung thick. Then my mother finally spoke. "I thought you were stronger than this," and there it was. The oldest wound. The lie wrapped in a compliment. The way she made weakness out of need. "I am strong," I said quietly. "Strong enough to stop letting you write the story." They left after that. No hug, no parting words. Just 3 people walking out of my apartment like strangers who used to live in my skin. I stood at the door long after it shut, heart thudding in my chest. I wasn't sad. I was clean. The next week, I got a text from Aunt Rochelle, my dad's sister. "I just heard what's going on. Can we talk?" I didn't know her well, but I agreed. We met at a bakery on Mercer. She wore a pink scarf and smelled like cinnamon. I saw the legal docs. She said, sliding me her reading glasses, "I helped raise Greg, and I'm sorry." I blinked. I thought he'd changed. She went on, "But he's still the same. Always taking credit, always letting others clean the mess." She sipped her coffee. "I want to help you. The lake house doesn't belong to them alone." That was how I learned about the second trust fund. Smaller, hidden deeper, set up by my grandfather before he passed. Originally meant to be shared among all grandkids, me, Owen, and 2 cousins who live out of state, but it had been restructured. by my father 2 years ago. Now 80% of the funds were redirected into Owen's educational legacy. $120,000 gone. I felt sick. I'd accepted some favoritism, but theft. That was war. I went straight to Shay, my lawyer. She reviewed everything and nodded slowly. They used your contributions, used your name, hid assets. That's more than unethical. It's potentially criminal. She filed a motion to formally initiate a financial audit of all shared family assets. If they push back, she said, we go public. Court filings are records. Your story will be known. My chest tightened, not because I feared it. Because it was time. The next day, I wrote a letter, printed on real paper, signed in ink. I sent it to every family member with a stake in the house or the trusts. It began. This isn't about money anymore. This is about truth. And it ended. I am not ashamed of defending my worth. You shouldn't be either. The fallout. Explosive. Uncle Ken called. Furious. How dare you bring lawyers into this? I responded with a single sentence. I brought lawyers because I was tired of bringing silence. My cousins reached out quietly, most of them stunned. 2 offered to speak to the mediator if needed. But the real shift? That came from Owen. He texted, "Can we meet just me and you? No one else." I agreed. We met at the same lakeside cafe from our childhood, the one where we used to sneak fries into the bushes to feed the raccoons. He looked rough, like he hadn't slept much. I talked to a therapist. He said, "I've been doing that since you left the lake house." I nodded. I saw what I was becoming, he said, and I hate it. I don't want to be another Greg Linwood. He reached into his backpack and pulled out an envelope. Inside documentation to legally transfer his remaining trust balance into a joint account, controlled by both of us, until it could be restructured equally. "This isn't to win you back," he said. "It's because I finally see what I never did before." I looked at him for a long time. There were still cracks between us. Still silence I didn't know how to fill. But I saw something new in his eyes. Not guilt, grief. And maybe, just maybe growth. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, lights dim, lake photos packed away in a storage bin. My phone buzzed with a message from Shay. Audit approved. Court date set in 3 weeks. Everything I thought I knew about family had been unraveled, but now I was stitching something new. Not with hope, with clarity and choice. The court date came on a Tuesday. I wore the same blazer I'd bought for my first job interview out of college. It still fit snug around the shoulders, worn at the cuffs, but it made me feel grounded. Like the kid who used to code websites for local pizza joints was finally getting justice. My parents didn't look at me when I walked in. Owen gave me a small nod. His tie was crooked. His hands shook when he signed the entry log. I didn't comfort him. This wasn't a moment for comfort. It was a moment for consequences. We weren't suing for money. Not directly. My lawyer, Shay, made it clear in her opening remarks. We are seeking recognition of financial exploitation, concealed trusts, and property misrepresentation among family members, leading to financial loss and emotional distress for my client. I sat still as she said it all. Loss, misrepresentation, exploitation, words I had swallowed for years. Now they had a voice, a tone, a courtroom, and a judge who took notes. The audit results did the heavy lifting. Over $144,000 in unacknowledged payments traced back to me. Another $120,000 of redirected inheritance. Owen's second trust confirmed by financial records and testimony from Aunt Rochelle. When Shay presented the full total $264,000 in damages, plus interest and legal costs, my father visibly stiffened. When we presented the deed that proved I owned 60% of the lake house, he deflated completely. But the final blow was personal. Shay called me to the stand. She asked one question: "Why didn't you walk away sooner?" My throat closed for a moment. Then I looked at my parents, my brother. I stayed because I thought love meant loyalty. I said, even when it cost me, even when I stopped recognizing myself. I looked at the judge. But loyalty without respect, that's just servitude. And for the first time since this all began, my hand stopped shaking. The court didn't force a full sale, but it didn't need to. The ruling stated clearly, Miss Linwood is entitled to full legal control over her share of the property and due compensation for unreimbursed financial contributions related to shared assets. Translation: I could sue for damages if they delayed, or I could take the house and do what I wanted. Owen met me outside the courthouse. He looked wrecked. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for not burying me in there." "I didn't do it for you," I replied. "I did it for me." Then I paused. "But I'm glad you showed up. Finally." He nodded, eyes wet. "I'm selling my car, transferring the rest of the trust into the shared account. Whatever you don't want, I'll donate." It was the most adult thing he'd ever said to me. It didn't erase the past, but it let me imagine a future. The next few weeks were a blur of calls, documents, and decisions. I had full control now of the house, the money, the story. People started asking what I'd do with it all. My mom even left a voicemail. "We can still make this right. Keep the house in the family. Maybe you move in." I didn't answer, because I'd already made up my mind. One morning, I drove to the lake house alone. Fog clung to the shoreline like a secret. The porch creaked when I stepped on it. The wind whistled through cracked windows I'd paid to replace twice. I walked through every room barefoot. Quiet. Kitchen still smelled faintly of cinnamon and mildew. The back deck where I grilled burgers for reunions they never thanked me for. The fireplace mantel where Owen's graduation photo still sat, even though mine had never made it up there. This wasn't a house. It was a shrine to my own erasure. The realtor arrived at noon. "I've got a buyer already," she said, smiling. "Tech executive from Boston, wants a quiet place for his family. All cash." "Great," I replied, handing over the signed papers. "Let it go." She blinked. "You sure you could renovate? Flip it." I smiled. Soft but firm. I don't need to fix what never loved me. 3 weeks later, the sale closed. I wired 10% of the proceeds to a community college scholarship in my grandfather's name, the one they never mentioned, the only person who ever treated me like I mattered. Then I used another chunk to buy a small cabin in Orcas Island. Nothing fancy, just mine. Wood-burning stove, quiet cove, 1 bedroom, 0 ghosts. I didn't cut off my entire family. I chose a few to keep. Aunt Rochelle, who stood by me in court. My cousin Danny, who emailed, "You taught me that boundaries are love." Even Owen, eventually. He visits the cabin sometimes, brings books and bad wine. We talk not like brothers, not yet, but like people rebuilding. My parents, we haven't spoken in a year. They sent a Christmas card with a photo of the two of them standing by a rented cabin trying to replicate what they lost. The note inside read, "We hope you're doing well. We miss you." I didn't reply. I didn't need to, because they don't miss me. They miss the version of me that paid quietly and asked for nothing. That person is gone. So what did I learn? That being the strong one doesn't mean being the sacrificial one. That blood is not a blank check, and that family, real family, is who shows up when you have nothing to give. These days, I wake up to the sound of ocean birds. I drink coffee without checking payment reminders for other people. I walk barefoot across floors I paid for myself, with no guilt stitched into the beams. And sometimes, when I look out at the water, I still feel grief. But it's lighter now, not the kind that swallows you. The kind that reminds you what you survived. I built a life. Then I took it back. Now, it's mine. All of it.